Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast, where we challenge the stigma associated with mental illness through conversations about a variety of issues impacting mental health. Here we bring you news, views, and interviews that intrigue, educate, and celebrate recovery. Leading us on this journey are the hosts of the Mind Vine podcast, Darryl Mathers and Chris Bovey.
So welcome to the Mind Vine podcast. My name is Darryl Mathers, and I'm without my co-host today. Chris Bovey is on assignment, so it's just me, and we're going to talk a few different things. But before we get into kind of the meat of this week's episode, or this episode, I want to talk about our staff who 9 months, 10 months in, continue to deliver quality mental health care. So shout out to all our nurses and allied health and admin and everybody that helps make our hospital run. So thank you for all the work that they do. And it's an interesting time here in Ontario. We're in the second version lockdown. Seems to be strengthening every couple weeks, and we're all adjusting. And one of the ways that we are adjusting is to try and take care of our physical and mental health. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, as always, is mental health, but specifically with an awareness week coming up around eating disorders. And so we're going to talk with a global news personality who's done a bunch of different things in a bunch of different communities. You've been with Global for a while. You do a lot of work on the side in terms of being a life coach and talking about your story. So first, I'd like to welcome Carla Bosacki to the podcast. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a chance to share my story so that people know that they're not suffering alone, right? And that this is something that is happening more and more, and people just don't realize it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like suffering alone. I think regardless of where your mental health is, that's what we're all doing right now, suffering alone, whether it's alone in our family units or with our partners, or if we live alone, like we are all kind of surviving through this. Mm-hmm. What's getting you through the day today in this kind of unique world?
You can't see him right now because he's at the bottom he's underneath the table at my feet, but it's my dog. Believe it or not, if I didn't have a dog, because I live by myself and the building that I'm in is very COVID strict. So we're not allowed visitors. There's one person per elevator. You can't walk through the hallways. It's like a shut down building. So I don't see anybody. Even when I go into work, it's very solitary. I basically go in a side door. I go into my office and I go into a studio. So I have no interaction with anybody, even when I go into Global. And the rest of the time I'm at home. I do Zoom calls with girlfriends and we set up walks where we social distance. And I have 2 girlfriends that, thank goodness for them as well. I've been walking with once a week, which has mentally saved me. But I have to say, it's been my dog, Max, that gets me going in the morning. I got to get outside and walk him. We go for runs. We go on the ravine. We go on adventures. He jumps on my bed. He can't wait to see me. It's dog love, right? If it wasn't for him, I would be going stir crazy. So I owe my health right now to Max.
It's actually one of the things that we have at Ontario Shores pre-pandemic. We haven't been able to find a safe way to do it in this environment is pet therapy program,
right?
Where we have volunteer dogs in the community come and visit patients. And we actually have in our geriatric program, they have robotic pets because they see people who have advanced dementia. They're pet lovers and they're, in their younger years, and the reaction that they still get from just being around, an animal. It's pretty remarkable what pets can do.
I see it all the time, just walking down the street, somebody who doesn't look very happy and they see Max in his little I Love Mommy sweater or his little boots that he hates, and it puts a smile on their face. So I'm a huge believer in pet therapy and having animals around and bringing animals to the workplace because they just relax everybody. And they just make you feel happy. How can you not smile when you see a dog? Right?
No,
How can you not be happy?
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. And I mean, they're a great companion for especially people in unique circumstances at this, in this juncture.
Yeah.
You mentioned like, kind of your work environment and how, when you go into work, the protocols and different things like that. A lot of us are going into work, but in the media, it's a little interesting because in the first little, I'd say the first 3 months, 4 months of the pandemic, when we were figuring things out, everything was done via Zoom or other, kind of in-person technologies. And there was no hairdressing. There was no, stylist. Like it was really stripped down.
Right.
So what, like for somebody who's been in at Global, I think you're in almost 20 years that you've been at Global and in some capacity. What was it like in that time where everything at work is gone?
It was really scary because work was always, I love my job and I'm really thankful that I still do my job. And so going to work, no matter what was going on in my personal life, I would walk in the studio and everything would just melt away. It was wonderful. And two people that I work with had just come back from a trip. This is when it started back last in February. And they had come into our office and they were chatting. And then we got called in a week later saying, you have to go home. They've tested positive for COVID. And at this time, you have to remember, we didn't know what COVID was. I remember driving home, being sent home in the middle of my shift, crying down the Don Valley Parkway, not knowing what was COVID, what's going to happen. I have to stay home. The government's going to call me. I can't leave my house for 2 weeks. It was really scary back then because it was all so new and we didn't know anything. And then from that 2 weeks, it was another 2 weeks that I couldn't leave. So I was basically at home. Myself and Ross actually were both at our own homes in lockdown for a month, 2 weeks for each person, that we couldn't leave. So I had people dropping groceries off at my front door. And thankfully, my friends at the time were great. They would, pack up whatever I needed and drop it off at the front door. And I would open the door once they left and got it. But it was really scary. And then, of course, the jobs that were lost because of it. We lost a whole sports department. We lost entertainment. We lost our makeup department, wardrobe. So we were all left on our own at home. Once we started back at work, we were doing like this. We were doing the weather and the news from home and trying to figure out how to use a Degero app, which is what we were using. And we still use today. So half of my shift is still done at home and the other half is done at the studio. But yeah, Darryl, it was really, really scary because we didn't know what was going on. But then we adapt, right? We're humans. We adapt to change. You make the best of it, and that's what we did. And my work has been terrific. They're super supportive with everybody. They've got lots of health initiatives and groups. And if you need to talk to anybody or anything like that, Chorus has been really, really supportive of their employees during this time. So it's been really great to have.
As we start to look forward to vaccination, which is currently underway in Canada, obviously it's, maybe months away before things start to get back to a semblance of normalcy. But as we look forward to what the world could be again and what you've been through on the media side, there's been some, like you touched on, some really creative things done in the last 9-10 months to keep delivering the news, keep delivering the weather, keep giving people content, whether it's entertainment tonight being done in people's living rooms or whatever the case may be. Some really interesting things have been done. Do you see us taking some of these things, these creative things that we've done or changes we've made and implementing them or keeping them as we kind of get back into the whatever our new normal is?
Absolutely, because people are realizing that, and this is not just for media. I think it's for, if you ever walk downtown Toronto in the financial district at 12 o'clock on a weekday. Now it's like a ghost town. There's nobody around. And I used to walk down King Street, and it was packed, right? It was so crazy. But there's nobody that's going into those bank buildings downtown. That whole financial area is dead. Everybody's working from home. So not just for media, but I think so many employers are realizing that their employees don't have to leave the house, and they can actually work at home. And we can be really creative. And Anthony Farnell and Ross and myself, we were doing weather reports in the backyard. Anthony was doing them on his roof. He was doing it in the front. I know other news stations that were doing the same thing. Their morning hosts were outside on their front porch reporting as a co-host, as the other host was at their home. So it's really amazing what we can do. And I think we're going to see more of that moving forward. I don't think that we'll ever get back to people being at work all the time. And it's fun. I mean, I miss the social interaction of being around my cohorts at work, talking to producers and news directors and other people that I work with, because most people right now work remotely. Even our producers and directors, it's a minimal staff at that studio. Everybody's still at home, and it's amazing how producers can work from home and produce news for across Canada. It's incredible still to me how they can do it.
Just switching from one aspect of your life to another, before we get into kind of your personal connection to mental health in a more broad sense, you have a business aside where you, if I'm using the wrong term, feel free to correct me, but you serve as a life coach, is how I would describe it. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about what you do and how, that ties into your, kind of the bigger picture of your connection to mental health?
Sure. So I'm a health and life coach. I've actually been coaching for a long time, but really the last year and a half, 2 years, I really started focusing on it. I think when COVID really started and people were hunkered down at home and getting really depressed and suicide rates were up and people were gaining weight and they were really unhappy, that's when I really amped up my business because I wanted to help people. But I've been into health and fitness for a long time because of my own struggles. So there's two things that I do. So I mentor young girls because I didn't have a mentor when I was growing up. So I really take under my wing young girls. When I say young, I'm talking, they're just starting their careers. They don't know what they want to do yet. They're dabbing their foot in this and that, and they have no idea how to get to their goal or what their goal is. So I help them. I don't charge them. I talk with them once a week for 30 minutes, and it gives me great pleasure knowing that I'm making a difference in a young girl's life, that she can realize that she can do anything she wants. The other side is with older women, 40 to even my oldest client is 63, just make changes and to make healthy changes in their day-to-day life, to make some goals, to not be so hard on themselves, to trust themselves, to not listen to social media and all that garbage that's out there that makes our mind think of things that aren't really true, right? That's Max. Do you hear him? Yeah. He's playing with his toy. He wants some attention.
A few minutes earlier, he would have been right on cue.
So I really got into this because I struggled. Weight has been an issue my entire life. I'm talking since I was 13. And the sad part is that it all happened because my mother decided to put us into modeling and acting so we could make some extra money so we could have it as we got older. I never got any jobs. My brother and sister were like the Hansel and Gretel kids, like the two perfect blonde, blue eyes, really cute. They did everything. I never got anything because I was kind of chunky and I was the brunette, and so I never got any work. One day the talent agent called my mom up and said, Carla's never going to get a job. She needs to lose some weight. That girl's got to lose weight. I was 13. I wasn't even 14 years old yet. My mother told me that I needed to lose weight. And so that just started a spiral of I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I needed to be skinny. Now I wasn't an obese child. I was 128, maybe 130 pounds at 5'2". So, I mean, at 13, just there was nothing wrong with me, but I was on diet after diet. My mother put me on Weight Watchers, and then I used to go to school with shredded red cabbage. And so that just started me down this really dangerous path of not eating. I became anorexic. So my mom was then worried that I was going to get sick because I wasn't eating. Then I realized I could eat, drink a lot of water, and then make myself sick. So I could still eat, but get rid of the food. Then I went through a phase where, as I got older, I could drink and take drugs, which would make me not eat. So I would still be skinny, because skinny was it, right? Like being skinny. And when people would say to me, wow, Carla, you look really good. Did you lose some weight? Did you lose weight? You look really great. I would be like, wow, okay. So in my mind, I'm skinny. I look good. I'm getting attention. I gotta be skinny. And I was skinny. I mean, I wasn't even 100 pounds. And I was trying to get below 100 pounds. The scale was my best friend. I got on it 3 times a day. If I gained half an ounce, I would go running around the block for an hour. Like it was not good. And this went on until I was in my 40s, trying to deal with that. And I finally went through a really rough period in Vancouver. I lost a dog in a really tragic way, and it just changed my life. I went to our family home in the mountains in Utah. My stepfather was a big skier, so we had a house in the mountains. I moved there by myself for 3 months. I stopped drinking. I stopped drugs. I stopped beating myself up, and I learned to eat and get healthy. And it took me 3 months, and I did it on my own. But then that completely changed my life. And that's when I decided I was going to become a personal trainer. I was going to teach aerobic classes. I opened up a gym, a women's only gym in Calgary, because I wanted other women to know that you don't need to be skinny to be beautiful. You need to accept who you are, as long as you don't have a weight issue. And when I say that, it's when there's issues where you're carrying too much weight, and then maybe your heart's not healthy, that's when I think it's a concern. But if you're happy and you love yourself and you rock it every day and you go out there and you feel amazing, then that's all that matters. So that's sort of how my journey started. And when I see young girls these days that are looking at, let's say the Kardashians, for instance, right, who have had so much work done, who don't look like that in real life. I mean, it's make believe, but that's what they think is reality. Suicides are up, depression is up, eating disorders are up, especially in the Asian community. It's going up because of our Western world, and it's just a mess. And if I can help somebody not suffer like I did, then it's all worthwhile for me.
The piece about body image is, on social media, it's an interesting topic, because our society, well, I think we've come a long way in some regards in terms of acceptance of a woman's body, for lack of a better term, that there is no one's, you're seeing a movement where it's not one size fits all anymore, that there's a celebration of women just being who they are. Mm-hmm. Then there's the other side of it, where you go on Instagram, and if you look a certain way and you post a certain way, you're going to get thousands of followers, and you're going to be an influencer, and you're going to get endorsements. And then it goes back to your earlier point of seeing seeing something on Instagram, seeing how successful they appear to be, and thinking that you don't add up.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I have two daughters, and I think about, like they're.
Oh, how old are your daughters?
They're 12 and 9. And so they're just getting at that age, like they're not on social media, but when, like I'm not sure it's something that, maybe they did. I was just thinking about body image and our parents, maybe that wasn't in their thought process when they were raising kids. Like I'm talking about my parents' generation, but like, it's something I think about when I see how Facebook and Twitter make me feel sometimes, right? Just like that you don't have this perfect life, or like or they're going here, they're going there, like they're all this thing.
I know, right, Darryl? Like you and I at our age, we're older, we should be smarter, and we should realize that it's not true. But I have to tell myself all the time, okay, that's not true. I mean, she's not sitting on a beach in Jamaica. She doesn't look like that in a bikini. He's not that. He wasn't proposing like that. Their life isn't that. Their life cannot be that amazing right now. Like it cannot be that amazing. And so I stay away from social media. Even for my work, I post, but I post work related topics. I just did one today. I've got this 30-day challenge about getting outside and walking. I'm not posting what I see other people posting, and I just have to shake my head at it. But I can imagine if you and I are thinking that, what a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old girl who looks at that and what goes on in her head.
Yeah. And I think it's it's a real contradiction too, because we're in an age where women and girls can do anything. They can actually do anything. It's like the first time in history where they can do anything, whether it's, politics, finance, entertain, like you name it.
I know. Isn't that so true? You can be a woman and Black, and you could be in politics in the United States now.
Yeah. I know, but wow. And in the same breath, like there's still this, you see it all the time. There's still shaming going on. There's still this, ideal image. And, it's kind of maybe getting a little off track, but I don't think the two are too far removed from each other, because like when you were talking about your journey, and it's similar to what our patients experience. We have a eating disorders unit at Ontario Shores. It's for youth. I think it's age 12 to 18 who are with serious eating disorders. So it wouldn't be the first stop, right? You don't go, right. If you're experiencing eating disorders for the first time, you're not coming to Ontario Shores. It's when you've been through maybe several other agencies, doctors, or, you need this level of help. So you come to Ontario Shores. But in our department, obviously, we're talking about the root cause of these eating disorders, whereas in emergency rooms, ordinarily, they're dealing with the symptoms. They're trying to make sure you're hydrated, that your strengths. They're not dealing with those issues that are causing those behaviors. So I guess, like for you, when you were going through your time in Utah and reevaluating your life, you were kind of dealing with some of that stuff that helped you, make
everything. Why I was not eating, why I was overeating, and then being sick, and why I would do anything I could not to eat, and why, what was the cause of all that? I wasn't happy. People think that was the other thing. If you're skinny, you're going to be happy. And I hear some of my clients say, this is so funny, but it's been going on since I can remember. Oh, I'm just going to lose that 5 pounds, and then I'm going to be really happy. And then I'm going to go buy that dress because I really like that dress. Or I'm going to buy that pair of pants in a size smaller than what I should take because I'm going to lose that 10 pounds before. I had to figure out what was going on in my head as to why I was thinking that way, and that losing that weight wasn't going to make me happy. I needed to be happy within me. Losing weight was not the issue. And, I hate to say it, but, it really started at home. I didn't have the support at home saying, you're perfect the way you are. Don't worry about it. I had, you're fat, Carla. You need to lose some weight. That's what I got. And so when your mother says that, you think that you're fat.
When you think about your experience, like you said, you were an adult when you kind of had this, had the breakthrough in terms of your health and what you'd been through. Think back to like when you were 13, like besides maybe, the relationship with your parents, but what would you have needed at that time when you're really struggling? Like, was there, would you have welcomed a teacher, coming up to you and talking about it, or whether it was a coach or a community leader, or like what?
Anybody. If somebody at school would have seen me go progressively or actually very quickly downward in my spiral and stop me, if my health instructor, my history teacher, Mr. Todd, who I had such a huge crush on in grade 8, if somebody would have just stepped up and put their nose in my business and said, are you okay? Why don't you come and join the girls' baseball league after school? And, and made me feel like I was loved, or that I was accepted, or I was part of a group. Because it was not like that. It was, I went to school, I came home, I would stay at home by myself, and I would eat something and just be depressed. And the more you get depressed, the more you eat. And there was just nobody that got in the way of anything for me. So yeah, what would have helped if just anybody would have just reached out. And so that maybe that's why I want to reach out to girls, it's like I'm, and I really mean that. Like, I don't want anyone to suffer like I did by yourself, like in your own head, thinking that you're not worthy of anything.
Well, and whether it's intentional or not, but the work you're doing and talking, today and other places, so you've shared your story, you're, kind of opening up the lines of communication, because there is a stigma associated with mental health, certainly a stigma associated with eating disorders. Mm-hmm. When you first disclosed, kind of what you'd been through, whether it was like with friends or family or strangers, what was the reaction that you got from people about your struggles, and like, how did that sit with you?
I was in denial. For a long time, I denied I had a problem, or that I had an eating disorder. And people would say things, people would mention things as I got older. I remember as I got older, my parents would intentionally have me over for dinner to make me eat, but I would just like play with my food. We're really good at moving food around the plate to make it look like we eat something, but we really didn't. Or, like throwing it in your napkin and giving it to the dog under the table, right? Anything to make it look like you ate. We find ways to trick everybody. But I was in total denial for a long time, if anybody said anything. And most people, honestly, I'm stumped. I can't think of, at one point as I got older, my mom I was worried that I was getting really sick, but I didn't have friends that would actually say anything. Nobody said anything.
What about after when you started talking about what you've been through after your time in the mountains and getting your kind of changing course in your life? What's the experience been like? Has it been a load off just talking about it? Like just therapeutic, just sharing it?
What was a therapeutic was teaching aerobic classes and getting into the gym and being a personal trainer and learning and working with a coach and taking classes. And the more I learned, the more I understood, and the more I felt better about myself and realized that there really wasn't anything wrong with me. I was just thinking in a not a very healthy way. I had to change my mode of thinking into something that was more positive for me, that worked for me, and more accepting of who I was. And the good thing is that women loved hearing that I had problems too. It it wasn't just them, that they weren't alone. And because I think a lot of women and men, because men suffer from eating disorders as well, although it's more prevalent in women, as you know, they want to know that they're not alone. They're not going home by themselves and they're the only ones that are suffering. It's all over the place. And it's people in all different industries.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would point to your industry and entertainment, as being maybe hotspots for eating disorders, just because of being in front of the camera so often and some of the scrutiny that comes with that. But
let me tell you, Darryl, if you gain 2 pounds, if you wear the wrong color, if something's not right, people are so quick to judge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We actually had on from another network, Kelsey McEwen from.
Okay, I know Kelsey.
Yeah. Yeah, she was on a podcast early on in the pandemic, and we were talking about body image as well, and just like the, some of the comments that she gets on her social media.
Oh, I bet.
And she can't let she lets them go, but she wants to fight. Her inclination is to fight back, and she does selectively. She'll call people out for some of the comments they make about speculating about a pregnancy or.
And I remember that on, I don't know what social media platform it was, but she was pregnant with her second child. She was in Calgary at the same time I was, and then she came to Toronto anyway. And people were complaining or making awful remarks that she was still working on air and she was pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's just horrific to me.
Yeah. And men, there's no comparable, men would never, there's nothing comparable that men would have to go through on the air in terms of that type of scrutiny.
Oh no, women get scrutinized. If there's a wrinkle, if you're looking a little haggard, if, you look the wrong way. I mean, we're human, right? I mean, we don't always look great, and we don't have makeup artists anymore to make us look as good as we used to. We have to do it ourselves. So the coloring is wrong, and sometimes the lights are bad, and the angles are bad, and the shadows, and there's just so much, but people never look for the good. They feel better when they pick you apart and bring you down to, I don't know, to their level. I don't know. I just feel like it makes them feel better when they make you feel littler. Right.
Yeah, it's tough to understand because on social media you see people's first and last names when they're doing this stuff, and sometimes you see their employer and you wonder why are they engaging in this? But
yeah,
it doesn't make a lot of sense. But just going a little bit back to it's Eating Disorders Week is coming up in February. You've been on this journey for quite some time. What kind of progress have you seen in terms of our willingness in society to talk about eating disorders, and what do we need to do moving forward? What needs to be better?
Well, there's a bunch of different things. So I think, and you touched on this earlier, Darryl, how we're more accepting of all body types. I mean, Lizzo comes to mind, right? She's big. She's proud of it. She flaunts it. She wears little outfits. She dances all over. That would never have happened 20 years ago. It wouldn't have. So we've come a long way. And I love how she is proud of who she is. She's like, this is who I am. Love me or leave. Like, you don't like it, don't look at me. Right. So I think that's great how we've come full circle that way. We're more accepting. Eating disorders. I don't know if, I don't really know how far we've come to helping young girls actually deal with eating disorders and accepting that they're okay the way they are, and they don't need to get duck lips when they're 16 or their boobs done and Botox. I mean, some of these girls are not even 20 and they're getting this stuff done. So I don't think that's right. And I think we've stepped backwards when it comes to that. So that's a really tough one. I only know what I read and what I see, and the people that I know and I surround myself are accepting, and they want to help others, and they want people to realize that they're perfect the way they are. As long as you're healthy and you're happy and you exercise and you're cognizant of what you're eating, and you take care of yourself and you treat people well, then life is good. But I still think we have a long way to go to help women, young women, to accepting who they are as they are. They don't need to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean,
does that make sense? And for a dad with 2 young girls, you must know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I actually was like, when you were talking about the lack of like stylists and makeup, and that's one of the things one of the positives I see about this pandemic is, we have the news on every morning, and you see people that, that have, 5 o'clock shadow, and that haven't had a haircut, like John Tory.
I know.
John Tory doesn't have a haircut, and who knows how long. Like you're seeing people in a less manufactured way. Mm-hmm. And I think just that image is helpful for, like that's the image as a dad I would like my girls to see, is like, like, things aren't perfect even when you're on TV, right? Like TV is like this temple, or it's we about, especially our generation. I mean, if you're you're on TV, it's a big deal. It's something to aspire to. And if you see people perfect all the time, I mean, it's hard to, it's harder, I guess, to rationalize that, right? When you look at your own faults and shortcomings. And so I think that it's been refreshing to see people with less than ideal, or less than, the standard was back before.
100%. And you know what's a perfect example of that is, now she's from a different network, but you know who I'm talking about. Lisa Laflamme.
Yeah.
Who, as women and being on TV, everything has got to be perfect. So there's no gray hair, and your hair is a certain length and styled a certain way. But she stepped out and she stopped dyeing her hair, and have never seen that before. You don't see too many women on TV that let their hair go gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's just like, no, you don't do that. You look old, right? That's what we think, but she looks terrific. And I have always admired her, and I just kudos to her. I mean, she just is rocking it. I love it.
So hopefully we can have a bit of that, balance moving forward.
I hope so. But then, I still see a lot of these Instagram posts from these and what the heck is an influencer? I still don't know what that is. But these young girls, I still see these photos of them. Like sometimes I just scroll, I just look at it and go, what the fuck, like, I don't know. I don't know. I hope that we go the way that you and I would wish. And I hope your daughters see what is real and what to aspire to, which is being who you are and accepting who you are, and not believing this stuff that you see on Instagram or other social media platforms, because it's not real. I mean, there's even apps. And I know, I'm sure you know this, some of my girlfriends on Facebook, they use it. So I don't even know what the app is, but you can do something with your face and it makes it look so much better. Have you seen those apps?
Yes, yeah.
So, and I've seen like the before and after. So I see what this person really looks like. And then with this amazing app, my girlfriend Sue, when we all used to get together, we'd have like us, 4 girls from grade school, and she'd take a photo, and I know what we all look like, right? I mean, it's okay. We're in our 50s. This is the way we look. But then Sue sent us the photo. I was like, wow, what did you do, Sue? We all look so great. And it was just like, it's this app that you download. So I still, I'm still on the fence as to which way we're going to go as a society. Are we going to come more real, or are we going to still go that fake and phony way?
Yeah, no. Well, I think it's a progression, because even before the pandemic, you did see people of prominence, posting pictures on social media of them in less than ideal moments. And I mean, I've seen Kelsey do it as well when she's having a really difficult time parenting at home. And you know, like, so there is a movement to kind of change the conversation. So let's hope that continues. If people want to connect with you in a respectful way on social media, or
me not tear me apart or write some negative comment about my clothing choice for the day or something.
How can people find you? Where do you want it?
Well, what's my Instagram? It's at Bosacki. And my website, which is where I take girls into mentor. If anybody's got any young girls that they want some help with, you know, like I said, I just work with them one-on-one. I talk to them once a week. I don't charge anything. I do this because I want to help them. They can go to my website, which is just www.carlabosacki.com. Send me a message, send me an email. And like I said, if I can help, if I know I help one person, then I've done a good thing.
Well, it's great to talk to you about all the things that you're doing and your journey to this point. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we get you to Ontario Shores one day. And
I would love to, because, you know, when I lived in Brandon, there is, I don't know what the house is in Brandon, but there is an eating disorder house. It's an old mansion that they have in Brandon, Manitoba, where they bring girls in from all over the world and they go and live there. So I'm familiar with, you know, places like that. And you guys all do so much great work.
Well, thank you, and take care and all this, and hopefully we'll connect down the road.
Yes, thank you for having me, and stay safe and healthy over the next little while during our second lockdown.
You as well.
Thanks.
Begins and ends.